right. Hopefully I am try to get these as close together as possible too. That way I can kind of look one way and almost be looking at both cameras. We're getting there, right? We are getting there. I'm going to straighten this up a little bit. All right, welcome in, guys. Welcome in. So we have been talking for the last, we talked on Monday, we talked about intentions, okay? And about setting intentions and how setting intentions, what's up? What? Yeah. Hello. We talked about how setting intentions as a, like at the beginning of the month can help us stay on track, right? And then yesterday we talked about, we started with days 1 and 2 of the 5-day intentional holiday challenge. And intentions come up a lot this time of year because if you are intentional with things, right, then we find out that we get further faster. When we just kind of go on autopilot, whatever happens, happens. But when we can come in and be very intentional about what we're doing, why we're doing it, everything changes. So, give just a couple of minutes for some people to hop in here, in case, because I know a lot of people knew I was going live, or I said I was going to try to go live again today. Kelsey, welcome in. How are you? Happy Wednesday. Goodness, yeah. Like, I feel like that's one of the things about working from home, where because I don't regularly write stuff on paper. I do, but I don't regularly do paperwork or stuff like that. I'm not filling out dates. Thank you for the heart me. I feel like a lot of times I'm in a space where, I don't really remember the day of the week or the date or whatever. So yes, today's Wednesday. We are on days 3 and 4 of the 5-day intentional holiday challenge. So today, first of all, yesterday, we talked about figuring out the things that light us up and the things that drain us, because both of those are going to be very important in deciding what we're going to do moving forward. And then we talked about, I'm going to move this over. There we go. Then we talked about expectations and where our expectations come from, and just kind of that space where it's like, is this something that I've put on myself? Is this something that other people have put on me? Is it something that I need to actually deal with? Or is it something that is, I can let go of? It's just I'm not aware that I need to let go of it. So today we're going to talk about values and boundaries, okay? So values are what are going to help you filter the things that you decide to do and not do, okay? So values are like thinking of how you want to feel during the season, okay? So values will quiet the noise, and they're going to help you realize what belongs in your holiday season and what doesn't belong in your holiday season. It is a lot easier to make decisions with that filter, because then you can literally just go, is this going to help me feel this way or not? And if it doesn't, then you can easily just say, if this is truly a value that I hold and what I really want my holiday season to be like, then if it doesn't fit, if it doesn't align, then at this time, it is not something that we're going to do. And I'm going to reiterate this several times throughout this, this live, because I feel like sometimes people are like, oh, well, let me do it ever because it doesn't align. But sometimes we go through, I don't want to call it phases, but there are times when we have more bandwidth and more capacity to hold more, to be in more chaotic situations, and so sometimes maybe when your kids are super, super little, it's chaos all the time anyway. And so one could argue that if it's chaos anyway, well, then you might as well just add some fun chaos to it. But one could also argue that if you're already at capacity and having trouble, like keeping afloat and doing the things you need to do, adding more, even if it's fun, even if it seems magical and like you're going to have memories, adding more is going to decrease your ability to continue to hold that. And some holidays that we have, like you think about 4th of July, you think about Halloween. Even Halloween is a little bit of a stretch, but you think of some holidays, they're like one day, it's like you don't have that much going on. So if you have to hold it for a while, it's going to go back to normal pretty quick. The holiday season, Christmas, we have weeks before the actual holiday where we're still having to live normal. Like, schools a lot of times will do a decreased workload where it's not that they're not doing work, but they're doing more holiday themed work. They're doing more fun stuff. They're playing more games, whatever, but they're still have to show up for school every day, or they have to, if you homeschool, they have to do some form of work every day, right? And so a lot of times it's difficult because we as a society make this, and this is like the back and forth of it, right? Because I love decorating for the holidays as early as practically possible because I love the cozy warm feelings and the lights and all of that kind of stuff. But as we're bringing that in, it's a constant reminder that there's this big thing that's getting ready to happen. And that can bring anxiety. It can bring, it's anything from anxiety of a kid who's like, I almost never get the one thing that I really want. And so now I'm sitting there going, and kids can come up with some really crazy things that they want, right? I want a pony. The chances of people being in a space where they can buy an actual pony and have an actual pony is usually not that great. So it's not necessarily your fault if you can't provide that thing that your kid wants. It is the fact that they want the thing, and then there's this whole build up to, am I going to get it or not? And then if they don't, right? Or if they do, yay. But also there is feelings building up before, and then there is the like calm down period, and it goes two ways for most of us because there's this like feeling that happens. Okay, and honestly, this is the thing where I feel like it goes back and forth on this. If you live, especially if you live in the States, if you are like in the American culture of like holidays being like, a couple days before Christmas Eve, kids get out of school and then they don't go back till after the first of the year. So you go through the Christmas whole big thing. But then a lot of times families, do things for New Year's too. And so then it depends on when your kids go back to school or when you decide to return to homeschool, because sometimes we do things where, okay, like if a New Year's Day falls on a Monday, well, they're not going to give you the whole week off. You're going to have to go back, like probably you'll get New Year's Day off. So you might get Monday, Tuesday, whatever that is off, but you're going to go back to school later on that week. And there's that big, like all kinds of energy and fun and excitement and whatever. And then we have to like, and go right back to normal. And that is very, very difficult for adults, let alone kids. So if you are in that space where you are just dealing with just the normal roller coaster of stuff that happens just normally because of the holiday season, and then we're like, oh, we're going to add on all this extra stuff on top of you. Yeah, it's difficult. And if you have to say no to some things because we all want our kids to have this magical holiday, okay? I don't think there's anybody who's like, I want my kids to just have a normal day on Christmas and nothing special happen. Like, I don't really, at least I don't think anybody in this group is like that, right? If you're watching this, you probably don't feel that way. So, because of that, I feel like there's extra pressure. And then if we can't keep up, then it becomes, is it my fault because I'm the one that can't keep up? When in all honesty, it's nobody can keep up with that. I don't know too many people in general who can keep up with that level of go, 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 excitement, doing things, whatever, and then down to, having to be totally normal and live total normal life after that, right? So, and then we have the crash also from the high expectations, excitement, whatever, to normal, ordinary, boring, which can also bring on like slight depression, things like that, where it can just feel like a letdown, right? We can feel sad that the holidays are over, everything goes back to normal. So we're dealing with a lot. We're going to deal with a lot on the other end of it. Making sure that you are getting out of the holidays what you want is important. Okay. So when we're making our decisions, welcome in, Britt. How are you? When we're making our decisions about what we want to do, right? We're filtering it through that, whatever that feeling is that we wanted to feel. And there can be multiple, but they need to work together, okay? Because I think what happens is sometimes we're like, I want the holidays to be magical, but I also want to have peace and I want them to be joyful, but I also want them to have no drama. And like we have all of these different things, which some of them do work together. Okay. Some of them do. Others of them, like magical and peaceful, they can work together as long as your magical isn't carnival circus level magic with like peaceful, tranquil island kind of desires too, because those are very hard to have both. Now, you can say, I want to have moments that are magical, but then I want the rest of the time to be peaceful. And then when you have 15 different things that you're invited to, you can filter it through other filters, right? Other values. Like I want their, let's see, holiday values that they have on here: calm, connection, magic, simplicity, joy, presence, and rest. So maybe some of the things, maybe some of the things are like, I want there to be magic, right? But I also want it to be simple magic. I don't want to have to work for 4 days to do something. I'm going to tell you right now, I love and also loathe the person who came up with that little elf on the shelf guy. We don't do it anymore. But yeah, our elf went and found another home, and we're kids that need an elf. But that can be just like it sounds magical and it sounds fun, and we all like Pinterest watch the different little activities and things that you can do. And I don't know how many times I've sat down with a notebook and just had lists of different things, and then the different things that I needed, and then going in and getting like buying all of this stuff. But then at the end of the day, since it is the end of the day when you have to do this stuff, are you do you have enough energy after everything that you just went through that day to actually do the thing? And I feel like a lot of times that's kind of a thing where we have this like expectation. We have this like Pinterest level expectation over here that everything's going to be perfect. And then our energy levels match like scrolling, doom scrolling, right? And that's like it. And so at that point, I feel like there's a very big need to really examine what we're trying to do, right? Really examine what we really want. Go down deep and be like, okay, because if this is something, you have a gnome that just lives in the tree. Oh, you know what? I think it's really cool. I did the thing before they even came out with it. Now they have the little capsules, I guess, that you can put the elf in so you can take the elf with you when you like travel and stuff. I got an empty candle, like it still had a little bit of candle. It was like that much candle, but you know the big jar candles? Well, when you burn it all the way down and there's like nothing left in it, I like wiped out the inside of it and everything, and we put our elf in there. And our elf got to go on vacation with us one year. Um, and I like that idea because then, like, you can almost, like, the kids can almost just take the elf and do whatever. And then the elf just shows back up in the little capsule, and, you know. Anyway, anyway, I am, like I said, mine has notes and changes clothes, but he's lazy and old. Aww. And that's like a thing though, because I feel like there's so much stuff out there. Like when I was little, my mom had hand like cross stitched a it was a advent calendar, and it was this angel, and I wish I still had it. She had little pockets on her apron that went all the way down. It was like 24 little days, and inside she would put a little slip of paper that had like something to do every day. I mean, you could put a piece of candy in there or something like that for days that you like know you can't, right? But there was always some different little thing to do. And I wish I had like that level of like it's the combination, right? It's the energy, it's the time, it's the finances, it's all of that rolled into one. Get the chocolate ones, yeah. Um it's all of that rolled into one, right? Because it's like some days I have the energy, but we don't have the things to do it. And some days we have the things to do it, but the time isn't there. And so it's one of those things where it's like, and then getting my kids are older now. So getting everybody on board to do the same thing too, that can be a challenge in and of itself. But we have these ideas from the past, right? We have these ideas of things that we did, or, stuff like that. And then we want to pass those on. But sometimes that can just be ridiculously, like, either not possible or hard to do. Welcome in, Amy. How are you? Thank you for your heart me. So, like I said, we need to figure out how we want the holidays to feel. And I honestly think this is something that needs to not just be a you thing, but your whole family doing Christmas stuff. See, and that's the thing. I'm an only child too. And so we did so much because we could, because I was the only kid. And that being said, and that's another space where, like I said, it becomes this thing where when you're talking about like the differences, right? Like, I don't know how my mom used to tell me all the time, I don't know how you do it. I couldn't have done it. Like, if there were two of you, your life would have been so much different. Like, it just would have. Um, but that's the thing. Like, we figure out what everybody really wants, right? So, and sometimes we have family members that are just like, I just want to be left alone. I just want, and that's when you have to maybe do a compromise, right? Maybe work in like, okay, if we can give you certain days and certain times during days and things where it's like, this is your time, right? Because, and not everybody has it in them to like do the things long term, right? Sometimes we can hang out with family and we can do the things with, everyone for a few hours. But then after that, we're like kind of done and we need like our recoup time. I always tell you guys every morning, and this morning was very, very different. There were people already awake when I woke up. I overslept. It was like I didn't have that actual quiet time. I did get time, but I didn't have the actual like quiet time away from thinking, am I ignoring somebody? Do I need to be doing something? Is there whatever? And so that chatter in the back of my mind kept me from actually enjoying my moments of like trying to get on the right track. And I actually have not even posted a single TikTok yet. Usually I try to have 3 up by 10 and then 3 up by 1. That's like my thing. And it's going to be 1 o'clock and I'm not going to have any up yet. But I'm okay with that because not every day is the same. And there was a time, and I still had to like physically tell myself this morning, it's okay. Like you didn't fail. It's not like you like get a big red F on your paper for that. We just have to, when we get done with this, and going live was like a good step because I almost didn't. I almost was like, oh, I'll go live at like 6 tonight. Yeah, that'll work. But I like this time. I think a lot of people like this time. I think it's time when people can come in and hang out. So I was like, I need to just keep the time. I said I was going to try to keep the time. So here we are. But those are all things where, like, especially when it comes to neurodivergent families, we can get very hung up on some of the stuff like, oh, well, if it doesn't happen this way, then we can't do it. Or noon. Noon seems to be a good time, noon Eastern. So that's 11 your time. But it just, I don't know, it just seemed to be a very good time. And so that was like a thing where I'm like, sometimes like, okay, I want to do like what I really want to do is do some low key movie lunches this year with the kids where it's not like I always wanted to do like those movie nights where it's like a themed dinner and themed snacks and everybody's in like themed jammies and watching the movie, and that's just not our family. Like we can't pull that one off for various different reasons. But I'm like, I could do a low key, like make lunch and they could eat lunch and they could be working on some of their schoolwork and we can have a movie on and it can just kind of be like this time where you're not just doing like one thing, but other stuff's getting done, but also it kind of is like spending time together. And so like that's one of my goals for this is it's going to be Wednesdays and Saturdays, I think is how I'm going to do it. And then Saturdays, if they want a friend to come or whatever, then we can do that. And I'm going to try to do some kind of crafty thing on Saturdays. I think if I can pull it off. I know this Saturday I was going to try to see if we could make the cinnamon ornaments, because that is something that's fun, but it's also something that is easy. Like it doesn't require painting because you put so much cinnamon in it that they turn out to just be brown. Like, you could make like gingerbread or whatever people, but then like their ornaments, you can hang them on the tree, but they smell a lot like cinnamon because you put so much cinnamon in the dough. So that was kind of my thought to doing that, and then letting them watch a movie and hang out and whatever. And then, if they have friends over or whatever, then their friends could take some. And that also helps out because that's like, those are good teacher gifts. Those are good like therapist gifts, people like that who you want to give a gift to because, okay, like, you've helped us out a lot, whatever. But also like everything is just more expensive this year, it feels like. So doing something like that, and you could just put them in little like cellophane little bags, tie a little ribbon around it, and it's just a complete little gift like that. We did it for the nurses at the children's hospital one year, and they loved it. So that being said, those are like some things where it's like, my value around that is spending time with the kids. But that doesn't mean that I'm like, it has to be in a specific way. It has to be, right? It's like if I can just have them in the same room, we're all hanging out, we're all doing the things that we need to do, right? But we're all there. And so, like, making little tweaks to things, but that would be something where I would say, like, no, we're not going to go do this thing on that day because, like, this is what my plan is for that day. This is like a family day. This is, Saturdays are the family, like the friend can come over, but we're not going to go do anything on that day. We're going to stay home. We're going to, do this thing. If we're going to go out, it's going to be Friday or it's going to be Sunday. And having that kind of a way of like, okay, this is like and especially on weekend days, because if you don't know, my plan has been for a while now to work Monday through Friday, take Saturday for family, and then Sunday for setup, intention setting, getting ready for the next week, getting ahead on things. So that fits the whole thing. But if I'm taking my family day and I'm spending it going here, going there, doing this, doing that, it's no longer really a family day at that point. Then it's more like, okay, we're going and doing things, and maybe we're even doing them together, but chances are we're doing them with other people too. So that is, like I said, where we get into like actually intentionally choosing things, right? I'm intentionally choosing for Saturday to be a family day. I'm intentionally considering, making like Sundays are going to be a setup for the week. I'm taking my Saturdays and my Sundays off of like social media. So the idea is to prep as much throughout the week so that I can have like, okay, my personal, now this doesn't always have to happen, but my personal thought is 12 short form videos a day, Monday through Friday, and then 6 on the weekends. And then that means that I only have to prep like 3 a day extra for 4 of the days to get myself to where I can just schedule these things out and be done with it. So it feels very doable for me, but that's also another, like, this is like, not only are we talking intentional, like we're talking intentional holiday planning, right? But when you like use this framework for everything across the board, this is going to spill over after the holidays. You're going to be able to look at like these values and how I want to feel about things. And yeah, you might tweak them a little bit. If your holiday value is magic, you might be like, okay, I can't have magic and over the top every day, all day. I don't have the energy for that. But you might be able to find some other of the supporting values within that you're like, okay, I like that and I like that. And now everything that I do, I can filter through. Is this bringing me this? Is this bringing me that? And it helps you to make those decisions. So, if you could choose one word to describe how you want your holidays to feel, what would it be? So, for mine, I think mine is honestly connection. I don't know how well that's going to go over, but we're going to try it. Let me get a drink. So, and then part of your homework for day 3 is going to be to pick one core value, okay, and then 2 supporting values. So if my core value is peace, then my like supporting values might be something like rest and simplicity, right? If my core value is joy, then my supporting values might be presence and magic or things like that, right? And it doesn't have to like exactly go along, but obviously there are things where when we talk about values, like some people value, I'm trying to think of the word for it. Like some people value knowing, having that knowing of what to do, right? So having clear instructions, clear directions. Other people value freedom. If you had both of those things going on at the same time, if you're like, okay, I really want freedom, I want to be able to do what I want to do when I want to do it all the time, then the idea of having clear directions would mean that you would have to create those directions. You would have to go through and do all of that. So, like, that's kind of a thing where sometimes I think that's what trips us up in life is that we want both. I want this, but I also want that. And you can want two things at the same time. But if they're competing things, then you need to find that cycle where they go in, right? So, that being said, we are going to move it right along into boundaries. Boundaries are not walls, okay? I think a lot of people think like you put a boundary up, it's like a do not cross, like big brick wall or whatever. Or if someone crosses it, like horrible things are going to happen or something. Like that's not the case. One, boundaries are yours. Okay, your boundaries that you create, you have to uphold. Like you have to be the one that enforces those. Nobody else is going to do that. There's not like a boundaries police that's going to be like, oh, you crossed somebody else's boundaries. Like, no. A boundary is only as good as your ability to enforce it, which is why boundaries need to be created out of values, because it is very easy if we don't have values backing up our boundaries. It's very easy for people to just like just roll right over them. And yeah. So boundaries are permission slips. They give you the permission to say, no, I don't want to do this. No, I don't want to do that. They also are that thing that says, okay, like this, having this boundary held is what I need to create peace in this situation. So that might be in life in general, it might be in a relationship, it might be in a job, there's different boundaries for different things, right? We talk about the holiday season having boundaries because the holiday season is like kind of an overall arching theme of family and friends, right? And so if you have a big family or you have a lot of family that live outside of your home, then your home is your like immediate family, right? But all of these other people also feel like they have, oh, we're family and friends, so we're what this whole thing is about. I was watching something earlier today, and it was actually a Abraham Hicks, and she was saying like it's funny how people don't understand that pretty much everybody in one way, shape, or form or another is looking out for their own best interest. And so we're like, well, why isn't this person caring about me? Why isn't this person giving me the best deal? Or this person doesn't care about me because of that. And it's like, no, really, at the end of the day, we are all looking out for ourselves, choosing our own adventures, doing our own things from our own space. Yes, when you have kids in the mix, you have a responsibility to, do the responsible things for your kids. But there are personal choices that you can make outside of that that can be very self centered. Because at the end of the day, and this is something that's difficult, and I'm probably going to get some people that are going to say something about this one way or the other. If I am training my kids, if my kids are watching me and all I am doing is giving to everybody else and never doing anything for myself, never putting myself first, never making myself a priority, what are they learning? They're learning, oh, in life, The way to be successful, the way to get, through things is to give of yourself forever. Just consistently give, give, give. And sometimes we've learned that from our family. Sometimes we've learned that. Other times we do the complete opposite. Our family never gave because they were only worried about themselves. And so now we don't know what the balance is. And so we overgive in situations because we've never been trained or seen what healthy boundaries are, what healthy, okay, I'm doing this for myself, or I'm doing that for myself, or I'm doing this for someone else. It can be very, very difficult when you have not had a very healthy, and honestly, that is like almost like an illusion what is actually very healthy when it comes to that kind of stuff. Because there is a balance, but the balance is different for everybody, okay? Some people really thrive off of giving, but they also know that they have to take some for themselves. And so if you can have that balance and go back and forth, that's great. But if you're the type of person who is going to look at that situation and be like, oh, I need to give. Oh, I need to give. Okay, I need a day for myself, but this person needs me, so I'm going to give. I'll take my day tomorrow. Tomorrow comes. Oh, I'm going to take a day for myself. Oh, this person needs me, so I'm going to give here. I'll take tomorrow off. And then the next day, it's like, it's the same thing and the same thing until we literally just crash, right? Because we have nothing left to give. So that is where, like, having the boundaries is important for, okay, this is what my family needs this year. Okay, my family wants connection. My family wants peace. My family wants, rest. So this is what we need. But here's the important part about it. It's not the end all be all. Okay. So in another year, 2, 3 years from now, maybe it'll be a completely different story. And everybody's going to be like, okay, we have had like 3 Christmases where we haven't went anywhere. We haven't done anything. Like, we need to go. We need to be out. We need to do stuff. And so then everything changes. And then you can be in a space where, okay, this year our values are, have changed for Christmas. And we do value this. It's not that we never valued it, it's that we needed to value this part right now because that's what our family needed in the moment. Things can change. Okay. I know it's hard because we think about something like the word values, and it seems like it's something that is either ingrained in us, like we were brought up with. Values are simply ways that you want to feel, things that you believe in at the end of the day. So when we get to that space where we can, like, have what we need, and sometimes we need more of that in the moment. If we've been lacking that for a while, it's going to feel nice to have a little bit of extra, right? I think when you have little kids and you have grandparents, like both sides of the family, there's grandparents, maybe there's grandparents on both sides, like, maybe if there's like separations, divorces, and whatnot, then like you might even have up to 4 sets of grandparents for a family. And if that's the case, everybody wants, to let the grandparents see the kids. We do a lot when they're little because they're little, okay? And then we hit this middle ground. We hit this middle ground where they're like, I don't know, 7 to like 11 or so. And I think during those years, we can already be exhausted, like completely exhausted from doing all of the going and the doing and the whatever. That if we can take the time to rest during those couple of years, then as they get older, right? And they're able to participate more, they're able to help more. There's more that they're getting out of it too. I will tell you, I remember through pictures but then being able to kind of transport myself back. I remember when I was little, and I remember when I was older, how I interacted during holidays so differently than when I was in those middle ages. Okay. Those middle ages were kind of like I'm used to everybody giving me what I want. I'm used to just, this is like how it does. We go through the motions, we do these things, whatever. As I got older into, teenage years, I started to realize that eventually I'm going to have a family, and I kind of wanted to be able to, give my family stories, and I wanted to know things. And so, like I said, your family is going to obviously differ, but it's important to like really talk to your family and figure out what season you're in, what your values are this year, right? What everybody needs. And then, like I said, we go through and we say, like, okay, if this is not something that aligns, right? Then if it doesn't align with your values, it's not for you this year. Okay, no explanations needed. We're not rejecting people. We are caring for our family, protecting our family's values, okay? Protecting those boundaries so that our family can have what they need in that season. So, what is one thing that you guys feel drains you during the holidays, but you feel obligated to say yes to? And I think for a lot of people, that's like big family dinners, being like, I know that like for me, we were able to kind of balance things out a little bit, I think, when the kids were little. When I was prior to having kids, it literally felt like my house was always the place that people came to. And it was like 2 times a week, every week leading up to Christmas, and then Christmas Eve, and then Christmas Day, and then New Year's Eve, and then New Year's Day. And it was exhausting because it was like constantly, and I loved doing the stuff, but I was like done for like days afterwards because it was a lot to do. And nobody else wanted to do it, but also they didn't want to let go of that. So I just became the one who was like, I'll do it, fine. And it was just that constant, like having to, like, you work for 3 or 4 days to set everything up, and then you get everything set up and it comes and the house is trashed by the time you're done, and then it takes me a day to recuperate just my energy alone, and then 2 days to clean up from everything, and then before you know it, we're back to somebody else's, we're back to doing it all over again. So that is one of those spaces where it's like, I that drained me. And, looking forward, um, if I was still in the same situation, I probably would say, look, I don't mind cooking, I don't mind doing stuff like that, but it needs to be at somebody else's house sometimes because, that way somebody else shares in the cleaning up and the setting up and whatever, and I'll cook and bring stuff over or come over and cook. That's fine, but and it really was like everybody not wanting to clean up and everybody not wanting to do the setup. Like everyone wanted to come and enjoy, but then, okay, we're going to leave. And then, you know, so I might have either done that or I might have said, well, like we can do like one day every week. And, we can do one either Christmas Eve or Christmas Day or, New Year's Eve or New Year's Day and, be done with it. So this is your script, okay? For those of you who were like, I would really love to know how to say no to these things because I really feel like I really feel frustrated by stuff, right? And maybe that's you. Like, I really want to like not hurt people's feelings and not make people upset, but at the same time, there are things that just they don't align. They don't make me happy this year, and I really don't want to do them. So this is your customizable script, okay? This year we are prioritizing fill in the blank with that value. So we will be saying no to and then fill in the blank. And that can be you can do it as simply as um we are prioritizing calm this year, so we are saying no to big family gatherings, right? Or we are saying no to Christmas Eve at so and so's house. Um, or you can make it like that first one was really more of the category one, right? Where it's like we're just going to say no across the board to anything with more than 15 people, right? And it varies because obviously, like, if you are an only child and there's not a whole lot of people in your family, it might be okay. We're going to say no to more than 7 people at something this year. That doesn't mean that you won't get around to everybody that's important to you. That doesn't mean that you won't make a phone call or make a gift and drop something off at somebody's door, right? It's not that I'm not thinking about the outside family. It's that at this moment, having like, and this is another thing I want you guys to think about, okay? If going to one big holiday event stresses you out for the entire season, if you are trying to figure out how you're going to handle things, if you are trying to figure out how you're going to talk to people, if you are trying to figure out all of that stuff, and it stresses you out because even when you have a plan, it doesn't feel like a good enough plan and you second guess yourself in different things, it's worth it to say no just so that you can have that peace throughout the season. It can be very difficult when you have very little ones who cannot communicate, or if you have either a lot of older family members who maybe don't understand a lot of the stuff about neuroscience now, or people in general who just don't really understand neuroscience stuff. Because a lot of times in that case, even if your kids are explaining, I have headphones on because, like, it's not that it's too noisy, it's that there's 7 conversations going on. I can hear the dryer, I can hear the fire, and I can hear the music, and it's too much. It doesn't have to be loud to be overwhelming. And so sometimes we try to explain things to people and they're like, oh, just take those headphones off. You don't need them. That looks silly. And like they don't understand. And then your kids can't really explain. And if you can't explain and your kids can't explain, that puts everybody in a situation there. But if you can go to a grandparent's house when it's just the two of them and your family, and you guys are sitting and you're talking and it's just you guys hanging out and there's not 5 other conversations going on, and maybe there's not a bunch of extra stimulus going on, that can be a much better way to still have time with your family during the holidays, to still do the things that you need to do. Yes, you might be dragging things out depending on how many people you have in your family. Everything is going to be a kind of a customizable according to your situation. But I promise you, we can make things work even if we're saying like, okay, we're going to take a couple of days after Christmas to do Christmas stuff too, because we're going to, we're going to do this and then we're going to do that. We're going to go to this person's house and maybe we go to a parent's house or something on Christmas Eve and another parent's house on Christmas Day. And then, we go see like siblings or something like that on the days afterwards. It doesn't, I mean, there are people who will be diehard, like, no, we're gonna do this on this day. And if that is you, welcome in, Jennifer. How are you? Thank you for the heart me. How are you? So that can be a thing. Thank you for the popular. But Sometimes we just have to let things go. Sometimes we have to know that for ourselves, this is what our family needs, and we have to just be okay with it. Um, but these are, like I said, this year we are prioritizing blank feeling, blank value, whatever, fill in that blank. So we will be saying no to, and then fill in that blank. And again, you can have a list of people. I would, Haley, welcome in. How are you? I personally would have two lists, okay? I would have a list of the family members who it's like, it's not that I don't want to spend a lot of time with you. It's that I don't want to be in that big group, or I don't want things to be too packed together or whatever. And then I would have a list of family members that maybe they're the ones that don't quite understand the situation. Maybe they're the ones that you feel like you're constantly explaining yourself to, but you're not getting anywhere and they're not understanding and they're committed to telling you that you're wrong and you're kind of trying to bring them to your side. And it's just this constant like fight, because we all have those family members who are like trying to, like, from a place of love, tell you how to do things. And it can make you feel like you're making the wrong decision, especially when they're older than you, especially when they're elders, especially when they're trying to come from this place of, well, in my day, we did things differently, and this is how everything worked, and everything was better. And because that's hard to argue with, right? And sometimes we just don't want to argue. Like, I don't want to argue. I just want the things that I need personally to feel okay. I want those honored. I want those honored for my kids. And when people don't understand that, that's very difficult. Those people who are committed to misunderstanding, maybe you send them a nice Christmas card, you send them something, and you just call it, right? Like, I'm not going to argue. And then if they get upset, then later on you can be like, well, like every time we get together, it's an argument. And I don't want to argue with you. I'm not trying to call you wrong for your personal self, for what you're doing for you, but it doesn't align with what I want or what my family needs at this time. And it's hard to argue all the time. So until we can get to a place, and I've said before, sometimes it just takes having that conversation. If you've never had that conversation, that needs to be your first step, right? Have that conversation. Say, hey, look, I would appreciate it if these things we just dropped during the holidays. I understand you mean well. I get where you're coming from, but it's really stressful. And not only is it stressful, but if we're arguing, it's going to be stressful for other people who it doesn't need to be stressful for. And so if you come in, it's not like I'm saying, I am right, you're wrong, whatever. It's like I'm saying, rather than dragging on this conversation and how right you are and how wrong I am in the middle of the holidays when there's other people here who have nothing to do with this. Mandy, welcome in. Thank you for the heart me. Having that moment where you're like, okay, if we can just like agree to disagree for a minute here, have the holiday. Thank you for all the little tiki talkies, TikTok trail mix. I appreciate you. If we can come in from that space and we can be like, okay, if we can agree to just have the holiday and nobody gets upset or whatever about anything, then, and they do that, then great. Then you know that you can do that. And, I'm good. How are you? We are doing day 3 and 4 of the 5-day intentional holiday challenge. And today we're talking about values and boundaries. So it was good. It was good. It was quiet, which is like exactly what we needed. But it was good. Very, very good. How was yours? And so, like, coming off of that, we can just be like, okay, now I know I can do that. But if you ask and they're like, oh, yeah, that's fine, but then they like can't help themselves and they jump in and they start in, you can remind them, you said you weren't going to. But if they don't stop, then it's not just a making peace for yourself at that point. That's, everybody else has to deal with that level of, tension and stuff too. So it's easier for you to just say, all right, like, if we can't agree to disagree, if this is going to be a problem, then we are just going to remove ourselves from doing this thing. And you can go see the other family members during other times. You can even go see that family member, during a time when it's just you and them, Because, and that's the hard thing. I think a lot of times, especially, there's such a big gap right now, okay? Because neurodivergence, like the way that the brain is being studied, we are finding out so much more about like all of these like neurodivergent conditions and how a lot of them are hereditary. A lot of them are things where I think a lot of times the older people who don't want to let go of things, it is a lot of times because they feel like I had to deal with that on my own. Nobody helped me. I didn't get all of these accommodations. I didn't get all of this stuff, which is sad. I mean, it really is sad at the end of the day. But it's like, I was fine, so you should be fine. Like, everybody just needs to stop accommodating people, and people just need to do. But the problem is that it's not sustainable for a good portion of the world. Like, some people can push through, but a lot of times you're pushing through at the expense of other things. There's, other physical symptoms, other things that happen in your body when you are not in that space of feeling, like if you are constantly in fight or flight because you're constantly pushing yourself and trying to do things the way everybody else wants to, even though your brain doesn't work that way, there's a lot of stress that's added to your system, and that can cause a lot of physical problems down the road. And a lot of times we think these physical problems are just us getting older, but I think that there's at least a substantial amount, this is my opinion, I think there's a substantial amount that is due to people masking and living in ways that are not sustainable for them. And so at the end of the day, it is a difficult, like, conundrum to kind of get through. But we have to do what's best for ourselves, what's best for our kids, what's best for our families. And, sometimes that means, like I said, saying, okay, like, I can't partake in this festivity this year because it's going to be too stressful. And sometimes you can talk to people and be like, okay, it's too noisy, it's too loud, you guys are always doing stuff, and maybe they can make arrangements, right? Maybe you go for the beginning of it, and for the first hour or two, they don't really have music playing, and there's less people there, and you can just show up and be there for a little bit and then leave and then let everybody else get wild and crazy, right? Like, there's different ways that you can work things, obviously. The point is to be aware of what you need, aware of how you want to feel during the season, and then hold the boundaries where things don't align. All right. All right, guys. I am so happy that you guys showed up, that you guys are here. This was day 3 and 4 of the 5-day intentional holiday challenge, where we are intentionally choosing how we want to feel during the season and making sure that we have the holiday season that aligns with those values. I am going to go ahead and hop off of here. I hope you guys have an absolutely amazing day, and I will talk to you guys all later.